Welcome into the FiredUP Network and Sports Wrap. It's Gerald Bentley and Alex Campbell this week. Our friend Rudy Reyes a little bit under the weather. Hopefully he's feeling better. And the seasons keep going, and it's been another crazy week. I did want to kick it off with what everybody said was going to be the college football game of the weekend, and it was in a way that we didn't think it would be. I think it's safe to say Alabama comes out of the gates and looks like they're just going to annihilate Georgia. And then Georgia made it a game in the second half, all the way to having a chance on the last drive to win the game. Ends up being a final of 41-34. I don't think anyone saw that coming, especially when the first quarter was 21-0. What were your immediate takeaways from that game? Because this is going to have repercussions throughout the whole season.
I mean, a few things. First and foremost, like Carson Beck. I mean, way to weather a storm in what was a very, almost looked like a savvy NFL veteran performance. You know what I mean? Like to be that bad in the first half, to be that offensively challenged in the first half, and then come out and have the confidence to just throw darts in tight coverage in the second half. I mean, that's a skill set that is a mental and physical skill set that many quarterbacks in the NFL, I just look around the league yesterday, do not possess. And that to me was first and foremost, it's Carson Beck's ability to bounce back, to figure out the pressure, to figure out the coverage eventually, and to fight through that and not just give up. And then really the entire Georgia team. Honestly, it's crazy that I'm looking more positively almost at Georgia's performance here than Alabama's, because in my opinion, what they almost did, even what they actually did, is actually harder than what Alabama did in the game. You know what I mean? And so it's hard not to look at it that way. That I went into the game thinking Georgia was going to be the national champion, and I still kind of think they will be because of how they played in that game. To go down 30-3 coming into the second half, I don't name a team in the country that could come back from that and even come anywhere close.
Well, there's not many. Alabama. I mean, well, Tom Brady in the Super Bowl did, but there's not a whole lot. And it was a case. You made a good point there. Georgia came in there in the old Mike Tyson line, right? Everybody's got to play until they get punched in the mouth. Well, they got punched in the mouth hard by Kalen DeBoer and the Alabama Crimson Tide. I don't think they were remotely ready for what they ended up seeing. That's a tremendous job of coaching by DeBoer. They built up enough of a margin before Georgia got reacclimated. They were able to hold on. Kirby Smart kind of said it in the post game. Coaches say all the time, hey, that was on me. I actually believe he meant it on this one because they weren't ready.
I agree. And obviously, one hell of a game. Great atmosphere. A lot of respect for Alabama's team, their fans, the venue. It was one hell of a game. Tale of two halves. Obviously, we were not really prepared, and that falls on me in the first half. We didn't do a great job, especially defensively. But we also gave them short fields. And with a short field and a quarterback like Milroe, it creates a lot of tough times. I am extremely proud of our team at halftime. I thought our coaches made good adjustments. Everybody was positive. And I talked to them. I told them, I said, look, guys, I've been in the stadium down to Texas A&M, probably just as bad, and came back to make it a game and had a chance to win the game. And didn't make more plays than Alabama. So a lot of credit to them. And for us, humility is always a week away. We got to go get ready for another tough opponent coming to our place.
I mean, I think he meant it because they were just floored by the schematics. And to be fair, I don't think this guy's gotten enough credit. I guess we could say both guys. DeBoer for his ability to coach quarterbacks, because he did coach a guy that was a surprising transfer away from Indiana after having an injury-plagued career and really accomplished not a whole lot on a bad Hoosiers team, to being a first-round draft pick, Michael Penix Jr. last year. Jalen Milroe, I mean, this is Heisman Trophy winning stats. 27-33, 374 yards through the air, including that last long touchdown pass to the 17-year-old true freshman star wide receiver.
Yeah, what a play.
And 16 carries for 117 yards with 2 touchdowns. Has Jalen Milroe been overlooked? And is this the kind of guy that we'll be talking about at the end of the season, like we were talking about Michael Penix last year, because of Kalen DeBoer's coaching?
Yeah, potentially. As you can tell, Milroe's bigger than Penix. Penix was actually a much more mobile running quarterback when he was at Indiana. It was when Tom Allen was there. I think they had a 9-win season. He played really, really well one year, I remember. But then, of course, the injury. I think he was out for 2 years almost, and then transferred to Washington. And you're right. I think what's notable in both cases is that he took, DeBoer took a running quarterback and made him a great pocket passer without losing the ability to run. And I think that is what's most impressive. And I've said it before too, is that DeBoer has the most complex route scheme you will see in college football. And I think even the greatest defenses are often absolutely befuddled by it. That's why I thought going into that game that the Georgia secondary might be challenged, because it literally, I can't put it better than this. It's like watching a 15-year-old play Madden and hot route every route on the field.
Yeah, they just had Georgia utterly flat-footed, and maybe what Kirby said there, that humility is always only a week away. I think he meant that too, because I don't think they saw that coming. I thought they'd see an Alabama team that was a little bit disjointed. It's a new program. There's been a lot of turnover. We're established. We're rolling. We got this. It's okay. And if you take away the first quarter, true. I mean, take away the first quarter, they win, but you can't do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, what Bama did, early in the game was they were super confusing offensively for that Georgia defense. There was stuff that they hadn't done yet on the season. And of course, that's the thing about a year zero coach, is that like you only have a very small example to follow there, to plan for. And when they roll out totally new stuff, I mean, literally the formations weren't the same. And they were really saving a lot of this specifically for this game. And so that was really confusing. And then on defense, they won the fight up front in the front seven. And I thought that was an essential for Alabama to win this game. And they did, to their credit. They won the first quarter, and they did. And I don't want to take away from Alabama at all. I mean, they are the deserved number one team in the country. Ryan Williams, I mean, what a talented young player. That's a ball that probably shouldn't be thrown. You know what I mean? And then certainly should not be taken to the house for a touchdown. Wow. Just wow. That play was amazing. Just simply amazing. And again, like the fourth quarter was just replete with like incredible plays on both hits.
Oh yeah. An insane game. I mean, you could just watch that fourth quarter and be entertained. Another game where the fourth quarter came to be extremely important as we look at some of these top 25 matchups from the week. The Minnesota Golden Gophers came so close to winning their first game against a top 25 team since the year 2000. Tells you what the Gophers program's been like. They fall 27-24 to Michigan, who is trying to turn offense back to the early days of Bo Schembechler. We just talked about the crazy quarterbacking stats Jalen Milroe had. Well, Alex Orji, Michigan's quarterback, doesn't match that. He was 10 of 18 for 86 yards with the touch and an INT. But Michigan held on despite giving up 3 touchdowns to the Gophers in the fourth quarter. Michigan 4-1, 2-0. They're sitting in the top, solidly in the upper half of the top 25. I don't know. I mean, can you win this way in college football? They've got a matchup coming up against Washington. It's a primetime game on NBC. And then they take on Illinois, who's trying to play football in a very similar way. I don't think this is going to work, but they're going to have a really good season, because you look ahead to the rest of the year. They have some very winnable games. You got Michigan State, you got Indiana, Northwestern, and then the showdown with the Ohio State University.
Yeah.
I know you're a big Wolverines fan. How you feeling about Michigan?
It's so there's almost zero optimism for this season or the future, even though it could easily be a 9 or 10 win season, because it's all
Yeah.
smoke and mirrors. What every team is trying to just cancel out Michigan, cancel out everything, football. What every football team is trying to do is make your offense, every defense is trying to make your offense one dimensional. And Michigan comes into every game one dimensional. And that to me is going to bite them. And you look at this game against Minnesota, same thing. Really, against USC, same thing. They won the fight up front handily, and still that was a 3-point game in the end. It was the exact same score against Minnesota, almost the exact same game in a way against Minnesota. Which again, this is who they're going to be with Alex Orji at quarterback, and with Davis Warren at quarterback, they're a turnover machine that also runs the ball really well. You know what I mean? So this is who they are, and they have a top 10 defense. I do think that what they've been very fortunate with is that they've been able to run a very old school. They've really taken not only the offense back in time, but the defense back in time. You know, you even heard it on the broadcast late in that game against Minnesota. You're in a tight space inside the red zone, and really you should be in some kind of load the defensive backs on the field zone situation, because you know they're going to throw the ball, and instead they're sending 6 on a man blitz. You know what I mean? And they're just mono man coverage, and their athletes on defense are better than Minnesota's athletes on offense. But it doesn't really matter when you have 5 receivers out wide. When you count the tight end, someone is going to beat the man, and someone's going to be open. And you're just what you're doing is thinking that I can get to that quarterback before he sees the open man. And in many cases, that just doesn't work out, especially in modern college football when these routes are schemed specifically for those situations. The offenses are just too complex to go back to like 1990s, just run cover 1 and cover, 0 all the time. Football. And I think both things I think are going to bite Michigan in the end.
Yeah, I mean, they match up against Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, Will Howard, and the Ohio State. And that's not going to end well. So this is probably the year Ohio State gets their win against Michigan and can kind of cruise in. Another Big Ten team looked pretty good. Penn State, they showed a little ability to throw the football. They take care of Illinois in a matchup of top 25 teams. Number 9, Penn State, they go to 4-0, beat down the Illini 21-7. Wasn't really much of a game, 7-7 at the half, and then Penn State did all the scoring in the second half. Maybe this is a year for Penn State to make a move up, because they could solidly be the second best team in the conference.
Yeah, I'm just going to take a wait and see approach with Penn State, because it's just been this so often, right? Like it's been this so often, especially under Franklin. And then you get late in the season, like that game against Ohio State, you see it's TBD on the schedule. I would assume they're going to move that to a night game, and they're probably going to have a whiteout, and they're probably going to do it up big. That's still, I mean, obviously they're going to be underdogs coming to that game. It's going to be a tough one. Howard has been pretty impressive at Ohio State. And it's not hard to be with that receiver room that they have, and the offensive line that they have to protect him, and the 2-headed running back monster that they have. I mean, like, they are absolutely loaded. I think really Quinshon Judkins is the guy that tips them over, at the scales. It's not Howard. It's not Egbuka coming back. It's not the receiver. It's Judkins, because that to me is now with Henderson is probably the best 1-2 punch at running back in the country. And you combine that with the receiver room they already have, it makes Howard's day pretty easy. Like, he didn't have anything like that at K-State.
No, a lot of he was having to run a lot at K-State. He was a dual threat quarterback at K-State. Here, it's going to be much more of a drop back and game manage it and just throw to the NFL ready weapons that he has. Another game I wanted to hit on college before we move to the NFL, which is a survive and advance game in terms of the college football playoffs. Notre Dame gets a win, 31-24 against Louisville, playing at Notre Dame, and they looked okay, right? I mean, kind of offensively challenged. Riley Leonard, not the exact answer that they were thinking he was going to be. He goes 17-23 in a efficient, workman-like way, 163 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also led him in rushing, 52 yards on the ground and a touchdown. So not a explosive offense at all for Notre Dame, but win what was probably their second toughest game of the year.
Yeah, yeah, and their schedule obviously this has been talked about all year, and why that Northern Illinois game was such a shocker because their schedule actually is pretty nice in the back end. They get Stanford, in South Bend, Georgia Tech, who just lost, and looks like
Hmm.
they Georgia Tech, I felt like was a team that had a lot of opportunity that has kind of faded. Then they're at Navy, which should be interesting, but obviously in Notre Dame's favor. Florida State is a mess, who they
Yeah,
get
they're
after
done.
that. They're done. Virginia, not a good football team, comes to South Bend after that. And then Army, they play Army and Navy in the same year. You know what I mean? And then they finish up with USC, which is the game that they always finish up with. But USC, again, I talked before the season about how there were going to be teams, and I thought this might be one of them because of the personnel they have on defense. Now, the defensive coordinator, Lynn, has done a tremendous job at USC. They are worlds better than they were last year. And I'm not trashing, that portion of the defense. It's just the personnel. It is not equipped to go against Big Ten offenses. And that was clear against Wisconsin. Getting down early against Wisconsin and having to pull magic off in the second half, that is not what you want. And the performance against Michigan, that's a game they should have won. They should have gone to the big house and won, and they didn't. And I think this first year is going to be a bit of a struggle for Lincoln Riley, especially on defense, because I just don't think that they can tackle, in one-on-one situations with a lot of these running backs. You look across the Big Ten, and these are their big, powerful backs. Often there's more than one of them, and it's going to be tough. It's coupled with the offensive lines that are in the Big Ten, so they got a little growing up to do there. So my point in that is that Notre Dame therefore matches up, because they're built like a Big Ten team, matches up really well with USC. I mean, Notre Dame's strength is their defense. Riley Leonard, I think to use him best, you've got to look at like Tim Tebow with Urban Meyer. I think they're in a way very similar players. Leonard can run a little bit, but isn't necessarily fast. He's big and doesn't go down easy. Very much Tebow. He's limited as a passer, but he can make some throws. Takes him a little longer on delivery. Very much Tebow. I think you got to look to that. Run a little more read option. I mean, Urban Meyer just loves the read option. Run a little more read option instead of just straight quarterback run, because a lot of times it's predictable. They're just saying, our five offensive linemen can line up and you include the running back as a blocker, and we got the advantage. That's great, but again, read option I think would be great, and I think they could really move the offense a lot better if they did a little read option RPO stuff. I don't know if that's within Freeman's skill set. I don't know if that's what they can go with it, but to me, that's what would make them a lot better, is if they kind of looked at using him like that, because I think he is capable. If they stick in this drop back and pass and run the quarterback out of quarterback draw stuff, like they could lose against USC. Although I favor them to win that game. I do, especially after this performance. Louisville, I felt like, is better than USC, and probably I thought like they should. Both of us agreed they should have won this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Notre Dame's probably may actually still make it into the playoffs. Let's switch over to the. Yeah, I think they will. Amazingly,
they'll probably get slaughtered once they get in the playoffs. Like,
they'll get killed, but they can stumble their way in. Playing with a high school offense, and we're just going to out-athlete people. They're really doing the same thing as Michigan. Let's switch over. Yeah, let's talking about Michigan. Let's switch over to the NFL. The game up on the board behind me. The Chiefs stay 4-0. They just won one, but they might have lost some. Rashee Rice out for the year in all probability. The MRI is pending today, but here, I can tell you from experience, sports medicine doctors know when you tore your ACL. They know within about 5 seconds. They do a stability test, and they just tell.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You froze on me. Well, in the event that this keeps recording anyways, like Rashee Rice, how unfortunate is that? He's really starting to become clearly the number one receiver for Kansas City, and then goes down with this injury.
Power blanked.
I saw that. Yeah, I just saw the text. That's funny. It was a good timing though, because it was right in the transition. So
Yeah, I think, yeah, and it's still going, so I just have to edit it. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Well, let's there you go. Okay, let's go ahead and get back to that. Hey, talking about Michigan, we got the chance to see Jim Harbaugh get the big challenge, right? Go up against the Kansas City Chiefs. The game's behind me on the board. The Chiefs get the win 17-10, but they just won one, but they might have lost some because now Rashee Rice out for the year in all probability, torn ACL. The MRI is later today, but the doctors know. I mean, when I tore my ACL both times, the doctor told me within about 30 seconds when they looked at me on the sideline, hey, you have a torn ACL. It's shot. So the MRI is really just to see what other damage was done. There's not going to be good news coming out for the Chiefs in all probability. Best probability is it's a strained ACL, and guess what? They repair that anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference. How did you feel about that game overall? The Travis Kelce showed up. He had a game. He's going to need more of those. Is this Chiefs team just going to keep rolling along and it'll be like last year? Or do you see some explosive potential still?
This is who the Chiefs are. I mean, this is who they become. We talked about it a lot. You follow the money. You look where their payroll is. It's in the offensive line. It's in one guy on defense and the quarterback. And that's how they play. I mean, like, you just follow the money. That's how they play. They're going to win a lot of tight games because Mahomes is going to be able to it's like a pitching matchup, right? And in these quarterback matchups, look, he's going to win all of them on paper. And then probably 8 of 10 on average out of any 10 you pick, he's going to win 8 of 10. If it comes down to Mahomes versus you name them in the fourth quarter, which it generally does because their defense, especially with Spagnuolo, and to their credit, like I say all payroll, it is, but Spagnuolo does a masterful job with the rest of the defense that isn't super high paid. A masterful job. And so that really helps to have that kind of experience at defensive coordinator, you know what I mean? Clearly. And then, like I said, the offensive line is just, it's so good. The block, I forget the young guy's name, but the block that the guard threw on that touchdown run was sensational. He cleared out three players. Their offensive line play is the most underrated offensive line play in the league right now
against a good Chargers defense. Now, a theme of Chargers football has been, hey, it doesn't matter what happens early because you let the Chargers charger, they're going to throw the game away at the end. I don't think that was the case. I mean, they did give up that long pass to Xavier Worthy, but Justin Herbert was asked about it and asked in that way. Here's what he said.
Since you've been here, it seems like you guys are kind of you guys are in these close games, and somehow you guys end up on the wrong side of these one score games. Is that frustrating for you at this point, like to have another one score loss?
I think there have been plenty of games, whether they're wins or losses, where they've been close games. That's the NFL, and so we're ready for that. And we fell short today. There's plenty of times where we can turn on the tape and see us come away with one or go score. And so we have to stay patient, understand that we got the right guys out there. We didn't execute, didn't go our way today, and that's not going to stop us going forward next week, 2 weeks, whenever it is. That's just the way the NFL is.
I mean, I don't think it was a case of Brendan Staley throwing the game away with bad coaching decisions. They just kind of got beat down in the trenches. It really was a Big Ten football game in a way.
Yeah. And I think if there's one, critical thing you can throw at Harbaugh and the Chargers, it is being as conservative as they've been and not willing to air it out and kind of spread the defense out. And, I know that their whole goal is to run the ball. I mean, I get it, right? Like, I'm a huge Michigan fan. I watch Jim Harbaugh. That's how he coaches. You go back to his time in San Francisco, kind of same thing. But the difference between his roster in San Francisco, for one, the NFL is not the same as it was then. Two, Herbert isn't the runner that Kaepernick was, isn't even the runner that Alex Smith was. So a little different, and he's more the pocket passer, and so you've got to utilize that. Herbert has an incredible, almost elite arm, and I think that and they've got a good bevy of wide receivers. I think that they could throw the ball certainly more than they did. This is the second time they've scored 10 points in a game this season, and they're better than that on offense. They're better than that on offense, and I think that's the thing, is that like they're going to be with the defense the way it is, and Mentor and Harbaugh and their ability to coach defense, and as loaded as that defense is, like they're going to hold teams under, especially in this season of NFL when a lot of teams score less than under 20 points. They're going to be one of the teams that consistently can do that, and that much has been already made clear. Maybe they're missing like a couple extra running backs right now. It's just Dobbins and Haskins, and Haskins really isn't playing all that well. And you know what I mean? He's not even a legitimate RB2 in the league, I don't think. But you know, they've got to find a way to get this offense off the floor.
Yeah, and I think part of it's going to come from the offensive line, because he did get hit 10 times in the game. Yeah. So it would have been hard to drop back and throw much. The Chiefs' defensive line did show up, and they took advantage of an offensive line that was really kind of beaten down for the Chargers. That made a big difference. Wanted to hit just a couple other NFL games as we wrap it up. The Washington Commanders, in a year where the league's scoring nothing, they are lighting it up. Jalen Daniels talked post-game. He wants to give the credit to the team. And you can see he took his media relations class because he was doing some major deflecting. Here it is.
It feels good that we're able to execute the game plan, but we still got room. We still got room to grow from there.
Does that feel kind of normal for you, considering how explosive everything was last year?
I guess you could say so, but I mean, for us, we still got room to grow. We're not a finished project at all.
There's room to grow, but Zach Ertz just said in there, it's kind of incredible. You and Cliff have worked so well together. It seems like they've been working together for 5 or 10 years. Yes, room to grow, but what is that experience like right now?
It's awesome. I mean, me and Cliff just had that communication, that honesty. We're able to go in. Able to go in his office and say, "Hey, I don't like this," and he's here for it. He wants to put us in the best spot.
Can't beat that answer, but man, he has been impressive. Like we said, in a year where scoring is down, they are rolling it. They went and thumped the Arizona Cardinals, a revenge game for Cliff Kingsbury, 42-14. They're sitting at 3-1 now, looking good. And Jalen Daniels, 26 of 30, 233 yards. And he is he's living up to all that Heisman potential and then some.
Yeah, I mean, far and away the most productive rookie quarterback so far. Not even close. He's outperforming most of the NFL right now. I mean, 26 of 30 in this game, and that's the fourth consecutive game he's over 75% passing. I can't off the top of my head think of another quarterback that's gone over 75% through the first 4 games, let alone a rookie. Come on. Just an incredible performance. And he's so safe with the ball, makes the right decision almost every time, throws it with the right leverage. It's this, what I'm seeing from him is a lot of why I like Michael Penix a lot, because this is a lot of like what Michael Penix showed at Washington. Very similar, like, you know, fast decision making, find the open man, throw it with the right leverage, NFL level. And that's what we saw from Daniels last year. And he's carried it right over. I mean, absolutely incredible. I'm anxious to see if he can keep it up. But like, you're showing some staying power going across the country on the road to a Cardinals team that like really needed that win. Kyler Murray's actually been playing pretty well. You know, that's not an easy environment to win in. And they got it done. They got it done in big fashion. 42 points on the road in Arizona.
The Steelers fell from the ranks of the undefeated. Played well, though. 27-24 loss to the Colts, led by Joe Flacco. Yeah, we're just winding it down here. We're going to kind of run it up against the clock. The Bengals, they get on the winning side, 34-24, keep the Panthers losing. The Panthers do look a lot better, though, with Andy Dalton in. The Jaguars, major problems. They lose another game. They're down to 0-4. Texans get the win, 24-20. Some problems there. Fulham won, though, so the ownership group got a win. The Browns continue to lose to Deshaun Watson, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Raiders get the win, 20-16. game I wanted to ask you about, the Baltimore Ravens 35, the Bills 10. It was utterly uncompetitive.
Yeah, great effort by the Ravens. And this is almost the same game that this Ravens offense played against the Cowboys. Just, you lean on the power of Derrick Henry and the running ability of him and your quarterback, and it's enough offensively. And it really, like, the way that they play offense sets up their defense so well. So yeah, great game for them. They showed a lot of max. Like, the Bills were just completely overwhelmed in that game, and this whole like offensive strategy they developed where they spread the ball around just did not work. Against this defense, that trick play they tried to run that almost got Allen knocked out of the game was a desperation play at that point in time. And I felt like I was surprised on that play, though, that we didn't see a flag. I felt like that was a late hit. The ball was out by a couple seconds, and he was on a mission.
Yeah, and I think we'll now move in. And the last game I wanted to mention, the Buccaneers, looking good, demolishing the Philadelphia Eagles. But now that we're through 4 weeks, I think we're going to see what the real NFL season will be. These 17-game seasons, they've both started really clunkily. I think we'll see the teams kind of get their feet under them. We'll be back later on previewing Monday Night Football. There's 2 games that we're going to talk about. That's coming up a little bit later on the FiredUP Network. And you can always download that TrueTV Plus app to get it wherever you watch your TV. Alex, thanks for joining me here and wrapping up the week. We're running over our time slot, so it's time to throw it to the rest of the FiredUP Network for more sports and entertainment. Thanks for checking in, though. Where can people find you if they have some questions about NFL?
At FiredUp Alex on X, at FiredUp Alex on Insta, and Campus Bets on YouTube.
Awesome. Well, hey, we'll see you later. Thanks for joining us here at FiredUp Network.
Thank you.